dinner on the table is always a chore, at least it feels that way. And these days, what is the deal with the cost of groceries right now? My friends, welcome to today's video. It is going to be an hour and a half of budget meals for you and your family that I have been collecting. So why don't you get a chore that you dislike, folding laundry, doing the dishes, grab yourself a beverage, and let's hang out for an hour and a half. Before we get going, go ahead and hook me up with a thumbs up. Doesn't cost you anything, it's totally free. And let's get budget cooking. Let's prep chicken. I'm doing this in my Instant Pot because it's fast and easy and I like it. You don't have to do it this way. You can do a pot on the stove, no sweat. I have half the bag of chicken because this is a 6-quart pot. Here's the rest of the chicken. And all I am adding to this is a whole bunch of water. I do think you can pick up an Instant Pot on a budget. I have seen these at thrift stores. I see them on sale on Amazon a lot. That's a lot of salt. That's okay. It's gonna be fine. I got mine 3 years ago for right at $50 on Amazon. I'm sure you can find them on Facebook Marketplace. The ones I have heard people finding at thrift stores are like $30-ish. So I think this is an amazing kitchen tool and I would recommend it to anybody. And they're not scary. Just make sure your seal's on. This is set to seal right there. Plug it in. It won't work if it's not plugged in. I'm gonna go way longer because I have a lot of chicken in here. So we'll go 25 minutes, cook up the chicken, make some stock. I'll see you then. Plain old oatmeal is one of the most budget-friendly choices you can make. There were some times in our lives where we indeed ate oatmeal every single morning for the span of 6 months. And there's a few ways you can make it more interesting. Obviously, I don't have brown sugar. I prefer that with my oatmeal. I have regular sugar, but I'm a huge fan of cinnamon and putting fresh apples on top, not actually cooking the apple in it, but fresh and crunchy on top is a really nice way to make it interesting. We are also going to attempt to ground up some of this flour to make a pancake. Now, I also have regular flour for some other breakfasts, but if you just wanted to go straight oats, you could do that. I have the old-fashioned rolled oats. Quick oats are also another option. Steel-cut oats are probably my personal favorite because you can batch cook them at the beginning of the week and they reheat the best out of all of the options. Now, oats are supremely easy to make on a stovetop, in a pot. The ratio is 2 to 1. So I have a family of 6, so I have 6 cups of water right here. I will be cooking 3 cups of oats for 1 breakfast. So let's get going. Okay, now that my oats are in, I will give it a little bit of a stir and turn my heat down so it doesn't boil over. Because these are not quick oats, it will take a little bit longer for them to come together, but they are so convenient when it comes to making homemade granola bars, and that kind of thing. A half a cup dry, which is what each person is going to get, is 150 calories, pretty low in fat, pretty high in carbs. There is some fiber in here and an astonishing 5 grams of protein. So you do actually get a little bit of protein and fiber from plain old oats with nothing added. And it actually looks like, from this angle, it looks like there's not very much in here, but it's probably sitting at about right here, and it wasn't full to the top to begin with. So if you just did oats, you could probably get away with 5 days of oatmeal out of this container if you're feeding 6 people, or if the servings are larger, it would be a little less than 5 days. Oops, oops, oh no! Dang, that's why I need more than 1 spoon. Okay, this is about the texture you are looking for when you are making the whole rolled oats. It does take a few minutes. I think this has been going for 5 to 8 minutes or so. So I'm gonna turn this either off or on low. I have a half a cup of sugar. Remember, this is 6 servings. And cinnamon. I love cinnamon, so I like it to be like super dark. If a little is good, more is better. So we'll stir all of that in and slice up our apples. I'm keeping the skin on. We'll not be peeling the apples, but I do want you to keep the cores because we will be making something very special with that. Here is my quite large steaming bowl of oatmeal with a ton of cinnamon. And I also like to add just a little sprinkle of salt. It gives the apples like a nice contrasting flavor. Just try it and trust me, it'll be good. And this is 1 entire apple. If this is too many apples for you, like this is a lot, you can go half-size. That's just 1 apple. You can't even see the oatmeal anymore, but I'm telling you, this is so satisfying. It's really sweet and real delicious. Now take this guy and set that to the side because we're gonna make apple syrup with that. Okay, we are mixing up some eggless pancakes, I know. So starting with 1 cup of flour, and then when you run out of your all-purpose flour, you can take the oatmeal that you have and blend it up in a blender and use oat flour instead. 1 teaspoon of sugar, that's a little more than a teaspoon, but it will be fine. 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, 2 teaspoons of baking powder. I am measuring this one. 1/4 teaspoon of salt, not that much, just a little bit. Just a little mix to combine the dry ingredients. Here come the wet ingredients. 1 cup of milk, 1 tablespoon of oil of your choice, 1 tablespoon of water, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and we'll give this a mix. In the meantime, it is time to get our apple syrup ready. You could, of course, use anything that you have on hand to top these. If you already have syrup, peanut butter, it's one of my favorite ways to eat pancakes, jam, yogurt, whatever. To get our apple syrup going, I have some apples and cores and stems cut up in some water that I am just trying to steep, essentially like a tea, so I can get an apple flavored water. Okay, here's my apple juice. I know it doesn't look much like apple juice, but I'm gonna call it apple infused water. We're definitely gonna add some sugar to this because it is syrup after all. A little bit of cinnamon, a touch of vanilla. Once the sugar is all dissolved, we want to thicken it up somehow. Now, cornstarch would be the best choice, but we don't have that, so we're going to attempt a flour and water slurry. Here comes the flour, and bring it up to a boil. In a large bowl, I have 3 cups of flour, 1/2 teaspoon of yeast, and 1 teaspoon of salt. My last ingredient, this 4-ingredient bread, is 1.5 cups of warm water. Warm means you can stick your finger in it and it doesn't burn your hand. At this point, we're just gonna stir it up. It will be a very wet dough. So this will sit on your counter, not your refrigerator, your counter, anywhere from 4 to 8 hours, depending on how warm your kitchen is and how long you want it to sit. This is what you want your dough to look like. If it's a little dry, you can add a touch more water. But I'm gonna cover this with saran wrap and put it away somewhere on the counter, maybe by the stove, and let it sit for at least 4 hours. Okay, it's been about 5 hours and this isn't quite as bubbly as I would like it to be, but I usually let mine sit for 8 hours, so I guess it will be fine. You'll notice it's really wet looking and kind of bubbly. And I will be using just regular loaf pans for this. So while I turn my oven up to 450 degrees, I'm gonna get some parchment and crumble it up. A goose! I'll pour it in here and let this sit for another 30 minutes. You could call this the second rise while my oven's preheating to 400 degrees. As soon as it's ready, I'm gonna take this, flip it upside down as a lid and bake it like this so it can create some steam on the inside. Ooh, that's hot. After 30 minutes, I took the lid off and we're gonna let it cook for another 15 minutes to brown up, but it is really looking nice. Oh my gosh, it's gorgeous. Oh, look at that. Just in your standard loaf pan. Now the real trick is you have to let this cool for at least 15 minutes, or when you try and slice it, it will crumble into mush. Now this soup was originally like a chicken tortellini soup, but we're not doing tortellinis, we're doing elbow macaroni because it was much less expensive. But because I don't have a can of cream of chicken soup, we'll make our own with some flour and chicken stock and a little bit of salt. So let's do that right now. Okay, this is my chicken stock that I made in the Instant Pot. I will add 1 tablespoon of flour right here and a little bit of salt. This is just salt from the Dollar Tree. Like this. And we'll give it a little whiskey business. We're just Trying to create something that's kind of like a can of cream of chicken soup, but not really. So I'll just mix this until all of the flour is combined. I may add a little bit more flour. I'm gonna do 2 tablespoons of flour, I think. Yep, I think that will be good. All right, let's assemble all of our ingredients for our soup. There we go. Homemade cream of chicken soup right there. Hey, this is basically what we have going on. The carrots, the onion, the cream of chicken, our pasta, Italian seasoning, and the cooked up chicken and a little bit of extra chicken broth. And of course, salt and pepper. So I'm gonna chop up my vegetables right now and throw everything in this pot. I have a handful of carrots. This was like 5 pieces of carrot, 1 full onion, 2 cloves of garlic, shredded, in it goes. I have my fake cream of chicken soup right here, which is like flour, salt, and chicken stock slurry right there. The original recipe calls for basil and oregano. I did Italian seasoning just because it's way easier. We're gonna do, well, this is a tablespoon, so we'll do a tablespoon. I'm gonna do a nice 2, 3, maybe 3 cups of my shredded chicken that I got from my huge bag of chicken right there. 6 cups of water. I'm actually doing 8 cups of water because go big or go home, my friends. I will add a little bit more salt. I think that about empties this guy out. That's probably half a teaspoon or so. I'm gonna get this simmering and then I will add my pasta. So the original recipe only calls for 7 ounces of tortellini, but because my elbows aren't filled with cheese or anything, I think we'll do a whole, maybe not a whole pound, but maybe 12 ounces or so of just the elbows to make it more. Now, if you have chicken bouillon, please add that. I don't, so I'm gonna add another couple cups of my chicken stock here to give it that nice chicken flavor. We'll go ahead and finish this guy. I do have more in the fridge. Pop this on the stove, simmer for 30 minutes, and then I'll add my pasta after that, and we'll top it off with some green vegetables. Can you believe it? Okay, my carrots are cooked, so in come my noodles. So we'll just cook the noodles in here, and in about 5 minutes when the noodles are halfway done, we'll add some broccoli. It did end up being more like a stew than a soup, but you know what? I likes it thick. And when it's time to serve, if you have some Parmesan cheese hanging out in your fridge, that's an excellent topper. And always, always remember to taste for salt. For one of our meals, we're doing a white chicken chili with half of our white beans. I soaked them overnight, so they are soaked but not cooked. Therefore, I will do it in a crock pot. You can, of course, do this on a pot on the stove or in an Instant Pot or however you want to do it. This just feels really easy. Now, one of the main key components to budget cooking is as few ingredients as possible. So I do have all of my chicken, which I will divide up into several meals for the week, 1 pound of the dried beans, the chicken stock I made from cooking the chicken. I did splurge on some ground cumin for this, and to make my ingredient list short, I am using this salsa verde in here. So with this, some salt and pepper, and some thyme, we should come up with a really delicious dinner. I added about 2 cups of the shredded chicken here, both cans of the salsa verdes going in. I will use a little bit of water to get every last speck of flavor in here. I do have the ground cumin. We'll do maybe a tablespoon. We definitely want some flavor. This whole container of my chicken stock, which definitely congealed a little bit. I might pull that fat off. I might leave it. I don't know what to do. I might pull it off and add it later if it feels a little dry. I will also add some salt, and I'm gonna set this on high and check on it in a few hours. For tonight's dinner, we are going to do a little nod to the pioneer woman and her chicken spaghetti while tweaking it quite a bit because, again, the luxury of multiple ingredients we don't really have right now. I have my elbow noodles, which I got that huge 3-pound container for not very much. 2 cups of my cooked chicken. I did splurge for 2 cans of cream of mushroom. I have some sharp cheddar cheese, an onion, and salt and pepper, along with some of my remainder chicken stock. Everything else in her original chicken spaghetti recipe, I am cutting. It is one of Ree Drummond's recipes that I really, really enjoy. So if you want to try the original, I will leave that down in the doobly-doo below if you want to go check it out later. This one is actually quite simple. I have a pot of water boiling to cook all of this. I'm going to shred the cheese, chop up some onion and kind of like mix all this together with some chicken stock and bake it in the oven. And it's gonna be as simple as that. Okay, while my pasta is cooking in this large mixing bowl, I have 1.5, 2 cups of sharp cheddar that I shredded. I have some sitting over here for the topping. My 2 cans of cream of mushroom, a little bit of onion, salt and pepper, and my 2 cups of chicken. So as soon as my pasta is done cooking, we'll dump this in here, mix it all up. I am gonna do a quick taste for salt and then we'll bake it in the oven for a while. And that's as simple as this one is. Other things that Pioneer Woman does add to hers are some diced green pepper, which I didn't buy, jarred diced pimentos, and some cayenne pepper. I just use regular pepper. I figured that would be fine. So it's definitely a play on her chicken spaghetti. We will call it chicken macaroni with a twist. This is one of my all-time favorite meals. It is one of my favorite clean out the fridge meals and crowd pleasers. It's really easy to bulk it up with some potatoes, which I have left over. I do have an onion left, the remainder of my chicken, a ton of carrots, my bag of mixed vegetables, which I haven't used yet. This is actually chicken fat that we will use to help us make our crust. I saved it all week to use with the rest of our flour, to make a top crust only, and then we'll use up the rest of this chicken. I'm gonna make the filling first because what's great about chicken pot pie is you can pre-mix the filling, stick it in the fridge, put it together the next day. You can even freeze the filling and pull it out months later, just add a crust or biscuits and you're done. What I will kick it off with is simmering my vegetables in some chicken broth until they are soft, with some salt and pepper, obviously. Hey, I have a pot that I have not turned on yet, but I'll preheat it in 2 seconds. And all of my remaining vegetables from the week. The remainder of the potatoes, my last onion, some garlic, the rest of the carrots. Can you kind of see all of that in here? This is a large liquid measuring cup. Obvi, I have probably more than 10 cups of vegetables in here, and we will dump them all into this pot. Please fit. Okay. Yes, hallelujah. So cover this up with water, salt, chicken broth, whatever you have on hand until it's barely covered, and simmer until soft. There we go. Here's our water that I'm spilling everywhere. My potatoes are now soft. I added a ton of pepper, so this whole bag of frozen mixed vegetables is going in, along with the rest of my chicken. Oh no. Chicken overboard. So this will get stirred all around, and in a separate pot, I will make my white sauce, which I'll use to thicken everything up. And then at this point, you can go ahead and stick it in the fridge. You can freeze it if you want. I'm gonna go ahead and pour it out into my pan and cover it up and stick it in the fridge, and I'll make my pie crust topping a little bit later. So this is a really easy dish to meal prep in advance. To make my cream sauce, I have some butter in here. You can use any oil. Bacon fat is fine. Oil is fine. With a couple of tablespoons of my flour. So we'll just stir this in and let it cook a little bit, and then a couple of cups of milk and let it all heat up and thicken, and that will make our filling for a chicken pot pie nice and thick and delicious. Okay, I ended up with 2 cups of milk in here, as it was getting real thick with just one. So I'm just letting this come up to temperature, and then everything will be mixed together. And I'm thinking we might use a 10 by 15 baking dish because I have a ton of filling here. Okay, to make my pie crust, I have about 1.5 cups of just my flour in here. And we're gonna do our best to come up with a okay-ish pie crust with a little bit of fat, some milk, and some salt, and that's it. So into my flour, I'll do a little less than a teaspoon. The original recipe I found online is supposed to make 2 full, like, top and bottom pastry pie crusts, and I don't need that much, so we're cutting everything back just a little bit. Okay, to start it, I have just shy of a 1/2 cup of fat. This is a combination of oil and chicken fat from when I made that chicken broth earlier, and I wouldn't do that if it were biscuits or something, but because it's going on a chicken pot pie, it should be totally fine. So I'm just gonna stir that in and kind of see what it ends up looking like. And we'll finish out our dough with some milk. My favorite pie crust is a shortening and vinegar based pie crust. It's absolutely amazing. I'm gonna start with just a few tablespoons of the milk here, up to a half a cup depending on how wet your dough happens to look. If you live in a really, really humid area at sea level, you will probably have to use less moisture. Okay, that looks like a pretty good dough. I didn't use quite a half a cup. I've got a little bit more milk here. So we are going to attempt to roll this out the best that we can. Just a little bit of flour on a clean counter, some clean hands, and we'll see what we can come up with here. And I have never made a pie crust that smells so much like chicken. Using the chicken fat in there is so interesting, but it works and nothing goes to waste. So I kind of think it's a little brilliant. I mean, it's not the best texture of pie crust I've ever made, but it's definitely working. It is totally sticking to the counter. I should have put more flour on the counter. It'll be fine. Boom, look at that. My oven is at 375. Remember, my filling's totally cooked. So I will put this in the oven strictly for the purpose of cooking the crust, and then we'll be ready to serve. 2 slices of homemade bread, 1 fried egg with salt and pepper, and half a banana. I only have enough bananas to do this for 2 days. I'm all out of bananas, so breakfast for days 6 and 7 are going to be 1 fried egg, salt and pepper if you like it, and 2 slices of homemade bread. 1 loaf of bread can feed my whole family of 6 easily with a couple of slices left over, so we can do less than 1 loaf of bread for 1 meal. And if you happen to have butter, peanut butter, or jam or something already in your house, you can go ahead and add that on your bread, but this is good just to eat plain. Of our plain rice, 1 and 2. 2 cups of just uncooked rice, very, very plain. And I'm gonna top it half of this chopped onion. Here come the onions, and I'm gonna say, oh man, this onion's strong, my eyes are burning. Next up, we're gonna pull out our huge bag of chicken and figure out how many sections of chicken we actually have and how many we can use in this dish. I put all 10 pounds of chicken in this big glass bowl, and I came up with 10 chicken leg quarters. So for this dish, I'm going to take 3 of these joint pieces, cut them into 2 portions, and place 6 chicken pieces here. All right, we're pouring our mixture over the chicken and rice. If you want to use the smaller pan, you would just cut the rice and fluids in half. Now, if you have a stocked spice cabinet, you'll have this already, which is the crowning achievement of this dish. So if you do have Uncle Tony's, that's what we call it, sprinkle the whole top with this. If not, you're just gonna sprinkle with some salt. Since we're extra budgety this week, we are going to just use salt. Put it in the oven and bake for 375 at 1 hour. Here's the completed chicken rice dinner. And here's the rice that we have left over. That's probably enough for 2 people, I would imagine. So we're gonna save that for like a leftover lunch later on in the week. I'm not gonna lie, this rice is some of my favorite rice to eat. And here's all the plates at the table. We have 1 piece of bread for everybody so far. If you have a couple extra dollars, have some broccoli on the side or maybe a salad. In my breakfast prep, I am browning up my spicy sausage with my little meat masher that I picked up at Family Dollar. It's one of my new favorite kitchen tools. You should go get one. We're gonna do a breakfast casserole, and I'm just getting started making it right now. And I'm using my homemade bread that we made, the crusty bread, and I chunked it into chunks. So this is 6 to 8 cups of cubed bread. It is not an entire loaf. And I did brown up my 1 pound of spicy Italian sausage, and that was quite the experience because hot grease popped and landed in my eye, which has never happened before. But don't worry, the eyeball is intact, so I think it's all gonna be okay. We're going to do about 9 eggs or so, maybe 8, 3 cups of milk and salt and pepper. And if you do have cheese on hand, that would also be nice to add right now, but you don't have to do that. And then we'll cover all of this with our egg and milk mixture, and then you just pop it in the oven for an hour. Here's my mixture after I add my eggs and milk. And if you feel like it looks a little bit dry, you can add a little bit more milk and egg if you want to, but you don't have to. I'm gonna let mine soak for a little bit, and then we will cook it for about an hour or so. And this is a savory version of a breakfast casserole, but you can also do a sweet version with berries and cream cheese and serve it with syrup. But I really like this one. This is just your standard Betty Crocker pancake recipe. You can make them fresh every day, or you can make a big batch and eat it for the rest of the week. The choice is yours. I am tripling the standard recipe today, so I have 3 cups of flour in here. I'm gonna add in my 3 eggs, 2 1/4 cup of milk. This is just for when we're done. And pantry ingredients I will be adding is salt, oil, just about a tablespoon of any kind of sugar you can find, a little bit of baking powder. And we will mix this all up and cook it on our griddle. Everything's in my bowl and it's time to give it some whiskey business. Pancakes are definitely a family favorite in our house, so if you have kids or if you're a college student, don't be afraid to just stick with something simple like pancakes and syrup for breakfast. And if you don't want to make them from scratch, you can pick up that box mix that I saw in the store as well. It was very inexpensive. Let's make some tuna noodle casserole, and I have enough for 3 meals because I'm only going to use 1 can in this first meal to kind of stretch it a little bit. But these are the ingredients that I purchased: the peas, the egg noodles, the canned tuna, and the flour. And additional pantry items is going to include oil to make a roux, some seasoned salt or salt and pepper, depending on what you like. If you have some cheese hanging around, that would be another nice addition. You could also use cream of mushroom soup instead of making your roux. Either way is totally fine. I grabbed these from my garden today, but if you have a garden, you can use garden items, especially during the summertime. Let's go ahead and start some pasta water to boil and make our roux. Once your oil is hot, you will add an equal amount of flour to fat content. So I used 2 tablespoons of oil, but you can use butter, bacon fat, coconut oil, sausage grease, whatever you have on hand. 2 tablespoons of flour, and you do want to cook it and stir with a whisk for a while to get kind of the raw flour taste out. Otherwise, that's gonna be no good. And you see this texture right here? I think I could actually add more flour than this, so I think I will. And if you're going to make gumbo, you're gonna stir this for like an hour. So stir this for a couple of minutes and then we'll add, oh, I forgot to mention the milk. We will be adding our milk too. After you add your milk, wang jangle that together until it's nice and thick. And if it's too thick, I mean, you can add more water, more milk, chicken stock would be nice. And don't forget to add your salt and pepper. Oh, look how thick that is already. I'm definitely gonna need more milk. Tuna is in, and don't be afraid of the pepper, my friends.
The people, they want the pepper.
Lots of pepper, taste for salt. And we'll mix it with our pasta and we're about done. Here's the only issue with this in my family is that there's no way Dave would eat this. Dave despises tuna with like the depths of his being. So you could do canned chicken, although that is more expensive, or you can do fresh chicken, again, more expensive. This is reminiscent of the tuna noodle casserole my mom made when I was a kid. Here we go. I'm going to make mine fresh every day. I definitely have enough for 2 more meals. So this is the first meal, but you could make it in bulk and just do all of it at one time. This is all the tomatoes I showed you and 1 of the cucumbers. If you've never just had some tomato and cucumber mixed together with salt, pepper, and a little bit of lime juice, you should, because it's really delicious. Scrambled eggs with grits. This is a dish I ate all the time growing up, all the time. I was born and raised in Texas. Grits was a staple in our house. And depending on who you are, I'm sure you guys will weigh in the comments. If you grew up eating grits, there's 2 ways to do it: savory or sweet. So which camp are you in? Team savory with like salt and cheese, or team sweet with butter and sugar? The go-to in my house was butter and sugar, but my mom prefers it salty, as does my stepmom. And I have 12 eggs in here. This is hard for me because my kids, typically when I make scrambled eggs, I'll cook about 15 and then they'll still ask for more. But I think between the 2, it should be okay. What I like about cooking grits is you only need a 1/4 cup of grits per cup of water. So it goes a lot further than oatmeal. So for my 6 servings or 6 cups of water, I'm only gonna need 1.5 cups of grits. Don't forget to season your eggs with salt and pepper. Okay, I like to cook my grits with a whisk so they don't get lumps in them, but this is about the consistency that you want. And now you can add, if you wanna go with salt for a more savory option, or I will probably do sugar just because that's what I grew up with, but you don't have to do that. And if you have kids, hey, I actually don't serve this in a bowl. I serve it on a plate because it spreads it out thinner and it cools off faster. Little hack for you if you have children. Here are the plates, and I know it's definitely not as appetizing on a plate, but I'm telling you, it cools off so much faster. Like if it was in a bowl, the kids would just sit there with it for a long time waiting for it to cool down because it's so hot. But this is all 12 eggs. I still have some in the pot, so I know the kids are gonna come back and get seconds, but this will be gone. Let's make some homemade biscuits. Now, I doubled my biscuit recipe for this. I've been using this biscuit recipe for maybe 10 years or so, and it is delicious. I typically make it with butter, but I used the shortening, and honestly, guys, it came out just the same. So it's a money-saving little hack for you to use shortening instead of butter. It's really easy to make. This is why I bought the buttermilk, because it makes the best biscuits. So I ended up doubling this recipe and making the biscuits twice throughout the week. Doubling it gave me, I think, 20 biscuits. So I ended up with 40 biscuits throughout the entire week. And if you take nothing else from this video at all, get this biscuit recipe and incorporate it into your arsenal. What I like about these is you can add extra water after you kind of mix it up if it's feeling too dry. And it was for me. I live in a dry climate anyway, so it did need a little bit extra. And then as you start folding it together, all of the crumblies will start to come together. This is so easy to make. It bakes in 15 minutes. There's no rising time or anything. And I went ahead and just cut it into like little squares with this dough cutter, and I've heard you can pick these up at the Dollar Tree for $1. So if you want to get yourself one of those, I think it's a nice little addition to your kitchen. You can use this for anything, breakfast, dinner, lunch. I love homemade biscuits. Our next 2 mornings of breakfast are going to be these homemade biscuit and egg and chorizo sandwiches. Somewhat like, you know, an egg sausage biscuit you might get from McDonald's, but homemade and way tastier. Man, these biscuits smell so good. And because I made 20 of them, we can have breakfast for today and tomorrow, and for also a dinner. Black bean and egg tacos, or I mean, I would say burritos, but they're a little small for that. But anyway, we have these corn tortillas. I heated them up on the skillet a little bit, and some black bean, kind of refried beans. I simmered them in a little bit of water, salt, crushed red pepper flake, touch of cumin, and some garlic powder, just to give them a little bit of flavor. And I have basically 1 egg per person and have these little breakfast tacos. I also wanted to mention that you could make this better by adding some fruit if you have that in the budget, and some salsa on top, and some cheese would also be really, really nice. Lunch for the next 2, maybe 3 days, we'll see how it goes, is going to be a pasta salad with some of our veggies, half of my broccoli, the entire bell pepper, 1 carrot, 2 of my chicken thighs, cooked chicken thighs are in here. And I'm gonna put in the entire 1 pound of cooked shell pasta, which we'll add in just a second, and as much creamy ranch dressing as it takes to make it like coated and taste good. So we'll kind of see what we end up with here. And if you happen to have like a more red bell pepper or cucumber, or honestly, whatever veggie you like, you can add to this with whatever dressing that you like. You don't have to do ranch, you can do Italian dressing, you can make your own dressing. This can be adaptable in a lot of different ways. And hey, if you have bacon in your fridge, that's also a great choice. Completed pasta salad. And you know, if you have some mustard in your refrigerator, that would be a really nice addition, along with a little splash of vinegar, just to give it a little bite. The next meal is going to be this kidney bean casserole from the Joy of Cooking cookbook. It's a dinner that I found early in my marriage because it used beans, it was very cheap. The only change we're making today is we're going to be using small red beans instead of kidney beans. We will be switching out the whole tomatoes with Mexican style, or tomatoes with green chilies in it. And I did make a note that you can serve this with rice, but we will be serving it with biscuits. So let's get started. Hey, I have in a saute pan some oil. You can use the shortening that we picked up, and I will be sauteing 1 onion. And once that is soft, we will add our garlic. My onions are soft, so I'm going to add my 2 cans of diced tomatoes with green chilies. Here we go. Here come the beans. I just cooked them in the Instant Pot. If you guys want to check out how I like to cook dried beans, or all the different ways you can cook dried beans, I will leave that video up there and down below for you. 2 to 4 teaspoons of chili powder, some black pepper, not too much, but I'm not left-handed, and I have 1 teaspoon of salt. So stir all this around, simmer it for a minute, and we will stick it in the oven. It was looking really thick, so I added a little bit of water, and you can kind of see the consistency now. There's a little bit of liquid in here. It was smelling extremely acidic, so I added just a pinch of sugar to cut the acid from the canned tomatoes. I find that canned tomatoes are just super acidic. So this is going to simmer for just a couple minutes, and then we're gonna top it with the rest of our cheddar cheese and stick it in the oven to bake. So I baked this in the oven for about 35 minutes and then served it with the biscuits. Of course, cornbread is great, and you can also serve it along rice if you have some. My attempt at a ramen style stir fry. So So I have the last 2 chicken thighs chopped up right here. I had cooked them at the same time as the pasta salad chicken. I have 3 carrots, 3 stalks of celery, and the rest of my fresh broccoli that I had purchased all chopped up. 4 very large cloves of garlic diced small, my steamable bag of vegetables, soy sauce, and all of my ramen packets. Now, I'm actually not going to be using the seasoning packets in this. I'm only going to be using the noodles for the stir fry. So the only additional items I'm going to need for my pantry is some brown sugar and some crushed red pepper flake to mix with my soy sauce. The first thing I'm going to do is start sauteing my raw vegetables in my fat that I had purchased in a large pan. Once they're soft, basically everything else is going to be added into it. My dressing or sauce is just soy sauce, brown sugar, garlic, crushed red pepper flakes. And that's it. Just gonna throw all these in the pan. Of course, I'm gonna boil these in water and then add them to the pan at the end. Here we go. Pretty much on par for the course for overfilling my skillet. Maybe I should just get bigger skillets. I just added the ramen noodles, all my vegetables, the freezer ones, the fresh ones are cut up. I dumped the chicken in and my sauce is here at the bottom. So I just have to kind of like stir it all around and make sure everything is heated through and cooked. And we can do a little taste test. I think I got it all stirred together. It does smell really good. And of course you could just use rice if you wanted to do that. Instead of noodles, just trying to give a little more variety this time. So let me dish this up and this will be our dinner for tonight. I just tasted one of the noodles. The sauce is on point. It's so good. I will leave my ratios for my sauce I made down below for you. Now you're probably thinking, what kind of crazy casserole am I putting together here? I'm not. I'm just gonna have Dave drink that. This is gonna be a side dish. We're having pizzas. We're doing little mini pizzas. If you happen to have ham or pepperoni or sausage or bell peppers or whatever, you can add that to this, but cheese pizzas are totally fine. I don't know about you guys, but we actually do pizzas like this a lot. I always use a shortcut for the crust, whether it's clearanced out French bread or my clearanced naan. If you've seen any of my other videos, you know that's one of my favorite things to do. And this was a huge hit. When my kids saw that we were doing little mini individual pizzas, they were like, woohoo, can I eat 4 by myself? And I said, you know what? Eat as many as you want. How cute are these? And plus, you know, you could even have the kids make their own. And if you happen to have some pepperoni or ham or some bell peppers, you can totally add that on top too. This is a nice clear out the fridge type of meal as well. Here's the completed pizzas. Each kid got 2 of those, a cutie and corn. I opened one of the cans of corn and just cooked that up in the stove as a side dish. Going to prep the turkey breast by cooking just the whole thing in my Instant Pot. Now clearly this is not an Instant Pot. They all work the same, so if you don't have one and you've been wanting to pick one up, you can pick up one of the other brands. I find them to be extremely similar. You can also do this in a crock pot or just on a pot in the stove. Let's put this entire thing in here, put in some water, cook it for like an hour. I added 3 cups of water in there, so put the lid on, make sure that the sealing ring is in there. Don't ask me how I know to double check that. We're gonna set it to seal. And poultry only does 15 minutes, but this thing is huge. I'm gonna have it go for an hour. And the gravy packet that came with it, we'll just stick this in the fridge. We are going to utilize this in one of our meals. And took it all off the bone and then stuck the remaining bones and some water and bay leaves in my Instant Pot and ended up with all of this turkey broth, which I didn't measure, but this is a fairly big bowl. Today we are going to put together a turkey corn chowder in the Instant Pot, and we're kind of making it up as we go. You can also make this on a pot on the stove or in a crock pot. It'll just take longer. And use this in my soup and also in another dish. I'm gonna start by adding a couple of cups of the turkey. This is totally cooked. We're gonna add several cups of our turkey broth. I'm trying to measure it here for you. 2, 4. Let's go with 4 because I want to keep some for some of our other meals. We're gonna add 1 of our cans of corn. Please drain this before adding it. We are now gonna make use of some of our potatoes. I'm gonna scrub these really well under the water and with a scrubby brush to get all the dirt off, but we're gonna leave the skins on and just chop them up and throw them in. Let's do about 4 of these. Throw all those in there. Now, I'm a huge fan of your standard salt and pepper. Makes everything taste good. And in poultry, I actually really like the taste of thyme and bay leaves. If you only have dried, that's totally okay. It's very inexpensive. We'll just do the whole thing. Nobody lives forever, right? I'm gonna say about a half a teaspoon of pepper. I'm eyeballing this totally. I love pepper. Same in the salt. We can always add more salt later. Always, always, always. And lastly, We're gonna mix up our gravy packet just like it says on this little bag. Here's our mixed gravy, and we're gonna go about half of this. Maybe a little bit more than half, it's fine. I ended up hitting the soup button. It says 30 minutes at high pressure, and let's check it in a bit. And I do have a little tip for you if you prefer a thicker soup. Oh, let's get all that thyme stem out of there. You don't want to eat that piece. Throw in some instant mashed potatoes. I do keep a little bag on hand just for this purpose. Now's the time to test for salt and pepper. We can add a little bit more of that if you would like. There, you see how it's already a little bit thicker? Turkey corn chowder for the win. I'm gonna be totally honest with you guys and tell you that this amount of refried beans is like really eye-opening. Trying to figure out what in the world to make with it that's not like all nachos forever and ever and a day. So I decided some grilled stuffed burritos would be really nice. So I mushed up the refried beans with salsa and rice and got some like clearance tortillas that I had in my freezer, put some cheese on there, the bean and rice and salsa mixture, and rolled them up tight and then grilled them on my griddle like this. My family loves these. You can serve it with salsa, guac, sour cream, or nothing. It's a very quick and easy dish and something that everybody likes in my family. I did the best I could with like this vast amount of refried beans that I was given. They actually really loved this. They were pretty excited about this meal and honestly all wanted more. This is one of my least favorite meals ever, and because I typically don't like chicken salad sandwiches, I was trying really hard to make it something that was good and that I like. I added some mustard because I love mustard, a little bit of mayo, not too much, and I do adore pickles. So I took the apples and I chopped them up super, super small and mixed it in with this, and it was life-changing. The sweetness of the apple was such a win. Don't forget your salt and pepper. Oh, and hey, by the way, if you didn't know, sandwiches cut in half taste better than sandwiches not cut in half. The turkey, one box of the whole wheat rotini, and the other half of our gravy that came in the turkey packet. And we're gonna make turkey tetrazzini, kind of. I added Parmesan cheese, garlic, some butter, sour cream, and cream of mushroom, and some peas if I can find some in the freezer. I'm basically just gonna cook all these and mix them in a bowl and stick them in a casserole dish. My noodles are about finished, so I'm going to drain these. And this is my sauce. So I have the cream of mushroom, the sour cream, Parmesan cheese, the onion, the turkey, and the rest of that gravy packet, which made it kind of nice and thick. And I found 1 can of peas, and I don't love canned peas, like they're kind of dull green, but hey, this is a good way to use them and it'll make the whole dish not be beige. Mix it into the pasta and bake it. This would have looked a lot better with spaghetti noodles or something, but it's okay. And we're gonna stick this in our oven. It's actually way saucier than it looks. For some reason, these whole wheat noodles don't hang on to the sauce very well. 400-degree oven for about 20 minutes, top it with some cheddar cheese, and we'll be ready to go. It actually smells really, really good. We have a little bit of an experiment today with our spaghetti sauce and 1 box of our shells. We're gonna try and make lasagna soup, which is not something I have ever done before. Always have chicken bouillon or broth in my house, so we're gonna use this since my other homemade stuff is gone. This is some Italian sausage that I pulled out of my freezer. I already had it. You don't have to use it. Had some cottage cheese, picked up on clearance in my fridge, trying to use that up. Dump stuff in this pot on the stove and see if we can get it to taste good. We're gonna go, let's say 1 teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes. That looks close. Some garlic powder, I don't know, a teaspoon. And some minced onion, maybe a tablespoon of that. I'm doing this left-handed, so fingers crossed I don't go overboard. I just tasted my lasagna soup so far and it's got a kick. I should have taken under consideration. I used spicy sausage in this and the crushed red pepper flakes, so maybe one or the other. And we're just gonna cook that until all the pasta's cooked. And we're gonna top it with our cottage cheese mixture. Here's the completed soup with the cooked noodles. This tastes so good. Flavor is amazing. And the last little step is to mix together some oregano and cottage cheese or ricotta and a little dollop on top of your bowl. Man, that looks so delicious. My kids are gonna be so excited. You know, for tonight's dinner, I keep staring at all of these refried beans. So this is the leftover from the burritos that we had, the rest of the can that I had opened. And I'm looking at this and I'm looking at the soups. And I'm thinking, what else can I do with the soups other than open it up and eat a can of soup? Pull a frugal fit grandma, take a little nod from my mom, and do a clean out the fridge chili. That's what we're doing. We're making chili out of this stuff. I do have a lone package of hamburger in the freezer. Who doesn't have a lone package of hamburger in the freezer? I have some sad looking celery, 1 lone onion, use my refried beans as my bean, and my tomato soup as my tomatoes. Ground beef is almost cooked, so I'm gonna add my celery and onion now. Time to add our tomatoes and spices to our chilies, 2 cans of our tomato soup, and I'm gonna fill these with water and add the same amount of cans with water. Kind of like that. Here comes the chunky vegetable soup, way more watery as you can see. But once I add the chili powder and stuff, it should be extremely healthy serving of chili powder. I'd say at least 1/4 cup, maybe 1/3 of a cup. Just added all the refried beans. My container's empty. I think I'm gonna add maybe 2 cups of water to kind of thin it out a bit. My chili is totally done. It looks gorgeous and it smells so good. And much like the lasagna soup, this is definitely enough for 2 full meals. And if you want a little trick for having your chili go further, serve it over rice. It's how I was raised. My dad came from a very poor family and they added basically rice to every dish to have it stretch further so it would be cheaper. So if you serve this with rice, and my kids are very used to it because it's how I ate it growing up, that's how my kids ate it growing up. And if you want to use up the rest of your potatoes, you can put this on top of the potatoes. Figured out how to use the rest of my refried beans. We're gonna make taco pizzas with a little inspiration from the Pioneer Woman, because I've been making her taco pizza for a very long time. A little bit of cheddar cheese, and I can use up the lettuce I chopped up yesterday for a little bit of topping, some sour cream. It's gonna be delicious. So let's make this right now. Ta-da, taco pizzas. These are really, really good. And you know, you can make your own pizza crust, which I have done in the past, but I've never really found a pizza crust that I've been really, really happy with. So these little clearance naans are perfect in my opinion. Also, Dollar Tree carries some pre-made pizza crust, a 2-pack for $1. I am using KFC's fried chicken bowl as inspiration. So we're gonna make mashed potatoes out of these, layer some corn on top, and put some fried chicken pieces on top. I'm not actually gonna fry the chicken. I think I'm gonna do it in my air fryer. You could totally do it in the oven as well. And as soon as this thaws, I'll show you what we're gonna do with the chicken, how we're gonna cook it, and we're just gonna layer everything together. Should be delicious. If you've never marinated bites of chicken in mustard and lemon juice mixed together, you really should, because it lends so much flavor. I cut these into kind of bite-sized little nugget sections, and it's been sitting for maybe 20 minutes. So now I'm gonna dip them in my breadcrumbs, and you can kind of make them out of whatever, crunched up crackers or cereal. I had this one and this one just in my pantry, and I think this will be a great application for this panko breadcrumbs. And I'm gonna stick them in my air fryer. Of course, you can fry them just in some oil in a shallow pan, or bake them in the oven. Either way is totally fine. I just find this really easy. Ta-da! You wanna make like a gravy or something, you can totally put that on there. I'm just not a gravy lover in general. So there's my KFC inspired fried chicken mashed potato corn bowl. Homemade Lunchables with our pepperoni, some sliced cheddar cheese, and 1 box for each day of the fake wheat thins. These wheat snack crackers. I love these. These are some of my favorite crackers. And whatever fruit that you have left over, I have a couple of apples that we can use. The bananas, while I got very large bananas, we did eat them for breakfast. So let me put this together. You can split this up. You don't have to do them back-to-back days, but my kids never complain when they get to like build their own sandwiches out of whatever deli meat or pepperoni we have, and they love cheddar. You can't go wrong. You know, as I was putting this plate together, it occurred to me this could also be considered a charcuterie board, which is a very hard word to say, by the way. And I don't build the crackers for my kids. They like to do this themselves, like make it however they want. Sometimes they do all cheese, sometimes they do all meat, sometimes they do all of it, sometimes they triple decor it. It's better to just let them do whatever is fun for them. I'm not gonna lie, I am very excited about this lunch. I love a good cheese and cracker plate. This one makes me very happy. Another lunch I love and that my kids love are quesadillas. Just some plain cheese and a tortilla. I'm telling you, it is one of their favorite things. So I'm gonna put that right here, and I'm gonna cook it on my skillet. Don't forget to serve it with some sour cream and salsa. When I make quesadillas, I like to put a little bit of butter or oil. I usually go with oil in my skillet. This is already warm, so there goes. And once my tortilla's in, give it a little bit of that so the oil can get all over that bottom piece. Oh, cheese overboard. Ugh. Here we go. This is how we like to serve our quesadillas. I should have shaken up my salsa. A bunch of the liquid came out, but that's okay. It's just gonna make everything taste good. I love quesadillas. They are seriously one of the easiest lunches and all my kids love them.
Always leaving, then you got me chasing you like I'm the one to blame. Oh, I think you're so rude. Don't wanna fight you, but you don't ever take a break, 'cause you love drama. Forget the
I am so excited I have so much pepperoni left because I can make these pepperoni mozzarella like pizza wraps, and I threw them in the microwave to melt the cheese a little bit. And because the pepperoni is so fatty, you almost don't even need a sauce. But because I didn't use all of my pizza sauce from earlier, I have a little bit left, you can kind of just put a little bit on the side for them to dip. And this is a great lunch. My son Ryan specifically is very excited about this. For most of the dinners this week, we are cooking up this pork shoulder picnic roast. We'll be using the shredded meat for most of the week. Cook it once, use all week type of a situation. The first cook only requires 3 ingredients and a crock pot. I have my pork shoulder picnic roast, 1 jar of salsa, and 1 ingredient from your pantry, a little bit of brown sugar, because we are going to do kind of a copycat Cafe Rio shredded sweet pork. I don't use a ton of brown sugar because I don't like my meat super sweet. This is an unpopular opinion. I feel like the Cafe Rio sweet pork is like too sweet. I don't prefer it. The steak is very good, but the pork is like a little much for me, so I'm gonna tone it back a bit. So let's get these 3 ingredients in here and get them cooking so we can have dinner tonight. This is just over a 9-pound roast, like 9.3 pounds. 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar, standard pantry ingredient here. The entire jar of salsa right on top. And we're gonna put this puppy on high for a couple hours just to get it going, and then take it to low, and it will cook all day long, anywhere from 7 to 10 hours, depending on the temperature of your personal crock pot. They're all a little bit different. So let's go high and get that sucker going. I am getting my pinto beans ready for the week. They are rinsed off, although I did not soak them. So they're in here with 2 of my chicken bouillon cubes, and now I'm gonna add a ton of water, because if you don't soak these before, they soak up a lot of water. Make sure to spill water all over your counter, very important. I think I'm gonna add a little bit more. In my pinto beans, I do like to add some seasoned salt as well. So just a good little shake, about the equivalent of a teaspoon or so, and lid on. Here are the cooked pinto beans that I can use for the week, and do not get rid of this cooking liquid because there's a lot of flavor in that. I have a couple more ingredients to prep for tonight's dinner. I'm gonna shred up my lettuce, chop up one of my tomatoes, shred the cheese, and cook the rice. You can cook up however much rice you want for your family. You can cook it however way you like to do it. My favorite these days is in the Instant Pot, but if you have a rice cooker, pot for the stove, whatever, just cook up the rice. If you have some seasonings, add it. If you don't, no big deal. Everything is coming together. The beans are cooked now, so I'm just letting them do a natural release for about 15 minutes. My pork is looking really nice. I just wanna make sure it is cooked all the way through. You can see how hot it is right there. I ended up leaving it on high for about 8 hours. Prepping my side dishes, and then we're gonna build our Cafe Rio style burritos. Time to pull out this huge roast. I'm gonna take out that bone and all of that fat right there, shred it up, and stick it, whoops, back in the juice.
I was at the wrong place at the right time, 'cause suddenly there you were with those bright blue eyes. We were conversing under the night sky, when you took my hand, said let's leave now. Don't wanna be shy.
Here is 2 of the dinners that we are going to be eating this week. Cafe Rio inspired pork burritos. So I have our tortillas, rice, black beans, lots of cheddar cheese, lettuce, and tomato. My family doesn't jive on fresh tomato on tacos, so I usually only do a little bit. Some sour cream for the toppings. We're doing this buffet style so they can make their own. This whole huge thing of 9 pounds of shredded sweet pork roast.
Kiss a little harder, love a little louder, love a little louder. We went to a small bar with neon lights, talked about everything that was on our minds. Talking to you gave me butterflies. Then you took my hand, said let's leave now. Don't wanna be shy. I will let my guard down.
With some of the leftover pork roast, which I put in the fridge in this, and then I froze some more of it, we are making rice bean bowls. So you can see that there's rice down here at the bottom, a whole bunch of beans in here, the meat, heated that up, and then topped it with the shredded lettuce that I had, sour cream, and some of the salsa that I had purchased. This is a huge bowl of food right here. Super satisfying, really delicious. So this is going to be dinner for the next 2 nights. For 2 more of our dinners for this week, I am going to make a soup out of a bunch of leftover ingredients. Definitely the shredded pork roast is gonna go in here. Chicken broth cubes, some leftover rice. I have a little bit of pinto beans and a little bit of black beans. The corn, I bought the 2 cans of the fake Rotel and my other jar of salsa. We're gonna put all of this with some diced onion into my large soup pot, cook it all together, taste it for salt, and it should be good. So let's dump everything in. Getting my onions going first in a little bit of oil, and my 4 chicken bouillon cubes, which is equal to 8 cups of water. So I'm gonna go get my 8 cups of water and get ready to dump that in next, along with all my canned goods. The water is in and the pork is in. I put the rest of the shredded pork that I had along with the juices, so I can use up all of that flavor that I worked so hard to create earlier in the week. If you're worried about your pork going bad, it freezes beautifully. Just keep out what you need for a few days, freeze the rest, and then pull it out later. In comes my 2 cans of diced tomatoes with green chilies, which is not focusing, my can of cream style corn, which should cut the acidity of the canned tomatoes since corn is so sweet. I also added the rest of my black beans. There they are. And I had a couple of pinto beans I threw in there right there. As you can tell, this pot is like really full right now. I'm gonna add a little bit of my salsa just for some flavor here. Wear an apron so you don't splash it all over yourself. And it is time to let this come to a boil, reduce to a simmer. Everything in here is already cooked, so we're just kind of getting the flavors to come together, and we will add the rice at the very, very end. And if you saved some cheese from earlier, we can definitely top this with some cheddar cheese. My friends, I almost forgot about my frozen mixed vegetables. That's why I bought this, so I can put this in this soup. So here we go, in they go. Oh my gosh, this is so big. This is like a 9-quart soup pot. It is at the top and the rice is not even in here. This will absolutely feed a family of 6, probably a family of 8 for 2 entire meals. And if you wanna be completely extra, you can take some of your tortillas, give them a little fry, and do like homemade tortilla chips on the top for a little bit of crunch. Just added the rice, which I am waiting for it to break up a little bit. It's still kind of in a little bit of a block because it was in that Tupperware. And I just tasted the broth for seasoning. You guys, this is bomb. The flavors, oh look, there's a big chunk of pork. It's spicy from the Rotel substitute and the salsa. It's a little sweet because of the rice and the corn. It's creamy because of the beans, the meaty flavor of the pork, the extra veggies. This tastes so good. The salt level is on point. I am so excited to feed this to my family. Oh, look at that. I just have to mush that up a little bit. As soon as the rice kind of warms up and loosens up a little bit, we are going to serve this up. You have to try this. Like, you have to cook the roast and try this soup. This is delicious. I will have a recipe down below. I'll watch the film back because honestly, I just kind of made this up. I don't even have a name for it. Shredded pork tortilla soup. Is that dumb? Shredded pork. Clearly I'm very good at thinking up names for soups. Shredded pork and veggie soup, that's what it's gonna be. Look at all this good stuff in here. Oh my gosh. Top it with some cheese, some sour cream. Our last dinner, it will involve this sausage that I picked up at the last minute just because it was 50 cents when I walked in. I'm gonna use this, a couple more onions, the bell pepper I had purchased because this was like 48 cents, my last little bouillon cube to make some kind of a sauce type of a thing. Oh, and we are gonna put some pinto beans in this as well and serve it on top of rice. So I don't really know what to call this because I'm just throwing stuff in a pan and keeping my fingers crossed that it turns out okay. Sausage, pinto beans over rice? I don't know. But I'm gonna heat up a pan And we're gonna get the onions and pepper in first. A little bit of oil, all my onions and my bell peppers. Just saute this until they are soft. I just added the sausage and now I'm going to add in the bouillon cube I dissolved in, ouch. Oh, that's hot. In 1 cup of water. So I have about 1 cup of water here. I could add more if I need to. Here's kind of my sauce, and I decided to add, I'm thinking maybe 1 teaspoon of this. Before I didn't really know what I was doing, but it's like starting to come together in my head now, so just trust me. Change my mind, half a teaspoon. We'll start with half, we can always add more. I will let this simmer for maybe 5 minutes. You know, I think I am gonna add a little bit more water. It looks a little low to me. Simmer for 5 minutes, and then the beans are going in. It's looking pretty good. In comes about 3 cups of my pinto beans with some of the cooking liquid. And I had a little bit of salsa left. Let this simmer together until everything tastes good, really. Make sure the beans are soft. Waiting for my rice to cook, and this, like, I don't know what to call this, like stew, sausage, bean sauce. Beans and rice? I don't know. But this is not like your basic beans and rice. Am I right or am I right? Like, this looks kind of amazing. Lid back on, and I'll see you puppies later. Drunken beans, that's what we're gonna call it. Drunken beans, that's the name. Dinner for the last night, drunken beans over rice, and I already tasted it. This is delicious. I highly recommend you make this. You cannot go wrong. This is really, really good. Let's get started with breakfast. Once again, I know this feels totally crazy. We are going to use this box of corn muffin mix, the whole box. This whole box is pushing about 1,000 calories, okay, for just the mix. We're going to add a banana. Bananas, I mean, I didn't weigh it, but I'm assuming is about 100 to 150 calories here. Let's call it 1,100 to 1,200 calories right here. So depending on the size of your breakfast, mine are usually between 200 to 300 calories. If you did 300 calories, this could be 4 breakfasts. We're just gonna mash up the banana, mix it with the muffin mix, and bake it. And I will preheat my oven to 400, just like it says right here. Wanted to get started on my pinto beans. I took 1/3 of this bag, soaked it in cold water overnight, and drained it and rinsed it, and this is what I ended up with. It is amazing to me how much volume dried beans take up once you rehydrate them. Now, I'm going to be using a 6-quart Instant Pot for this, but you can do it in a crock pot or on the stove. You also don't have to soak them. I just find they cook a little more evenly. In go all of my soaked beans. If you're not going to soak them, just make sure you rinse them really well and pull out any dirt or rocks or anything. To the beans, we will add 3 ingredients, and one of them is only water. The second one is a chicken broth, chicken bouillon, something like that. I have this one and a powdered one. You can literally use any, it doesn't matter. And seasoned salt. That is it. You will not believe how delicious these beans are. Like, you can't even wrap your brain around it. So I'm only using this one because I have it in my pantry. I want to get rid of it. If you want to use just the cheap powder for everything, perfect. That will be just fine. If you have the better than bouillon in your fridge, that will be fine. I will do just shy of 1/4 cup, maybe 1/8 of a cup, okay? 1/8 of a cup of the chicken bouillon, and then the seasoned salt, let's do a tablespoon. Yes, I know it is a lot of seasoned salt, but beans don't taste good with nothing in them. Maybe half of that. We can always add more. Okay, we're gonna go 1.5 teaspoons and cover with water. The amount of water that you want is about 1 inch to 2 inches on top of the beans. So I'm not at the max fill line, so I'm gonna be fine here. Make sure your sealing ring is hooked around all the way. Lid on, don't forget to push this to seal. And I will just use the bean chili button and call it done. I did let this sit in the pot for an additional 30 minutes minimum. And did you know that the Instant Pot lid was made to fit right there in the handle? Did you know that? Here are the cooked pinto beans, okay? You do not want to get rid of this broth, and now you can do a variety of things with it. So you can eat it just like this. You can make refried beans. You can put it on tacos. I'm trying to grab one of these so I can show you how soft they are. They should be very soft. like this. You can also divvy them up and freeze them already cooked, so you don't have to buy canned beans anymore. This is a much, much more economical version, and you can make it as easy as canned beans by pre-cooking and then freezing. Let's get started on our chicken tortilla soup. Hey, I have all the chicken in a pan ready to cook. I just sprinkled a little bit of taco seasoning. So easy, and a drizzle of oil. No rhyme or reason, just put it on there until it looks delicious. I will be grilling this chicken because it's nice outside, and why not? You don't have to do that. You can bake it, you can put it in the crock pot, you can cook it in the Instant Pot, or you can sear it in a pan on the stove. I just like to cook over fire.
I have made fire!
So I will take it outside, give it a nice grill until cooked through. For our soup, I have a soup pot right here on the stove, and I will add 5 to 6 cups of chicken broth. I'm just using a chicken bouillon. It's very inexpensive. I like this recipe because it's basically just like a dump and go. So an onion, like a half an onion to a whole onion, kind of your call. 1 to 2 cloves of garlic. The fresh stuff is the best. You could use powder or jarred, but I'm telling you, fresh, it's super cheap and really has a punchy flavor. Here comes my chicken that I seasoned with the taco seasoning and grilled outside. Just went ahead and cut it into, you know, soup-sized pieces. And you don't have to use this much chicken. You could use half and use beans to bulk up the rest. Your call. And the bean amount really is up to you as well. Every time I make this, I'm like, oh, I didn't add enough beans. So I wanna make sure I really do add enough in here. So I already have chicken broth, but let's add a few more spices. A half a teaspoon of cumin, and yeah, I'm eyeballing this, like that. A half a teaspoon of chili powder, and depending on your spice tolerance, some cayenne. I'll go a little on the light side there. Cayenne is super hot. Some lime juice. I have these like super sketch limes. So I'm just gonna cut these in half and squeeze these in here. That is really all there is. So I'm just gonna stir this together a little bit. Take a look at how many beans I have in here. I may add more later. Remember, everything in here is cooked except for the onions and the garlic. So I'm really just cooking it to bring the flavors together and to cook the onions. So we'll go ahead and pop a lid on, and it really doesn't take that long, maybe 20, 30 minutes, that's it. Hey, my friends, we are here. This is the chicken tortilla soup. Now we taste for salt. Add salt and pepper if it needs it. Your taste buds be your guide. And then as far as serving it, I'm a big fan of cheese and tortilla chips. Of course, you can use whatever your favorite toppings are. Whatever you have on hand, avocado is really nice, but it can also be eaten just like this. One of the cheapest dishes you can make is in fact beans and rice. And today we are going to do Dominican rice and beans. My husband lived in the Dominican Republic for 2 years, and this was a favorite. Now, we did the best we could with recipes online and translating them from Spanish to English, and I've never had it taste exactly right, but it is close. So every time I make this, he gets very happy. We'll start in a warm pan with some oil, whatever oil you want, and we will saute onions, garlic, and bell peppers. I didn't buy any bell peppers for this, but I gotta show you what I found. Last year's garden had some excess of peppers, and I chopped them very large and froze them. So I found these frozen peppers. They're really big, but they'll work. So we'll just saute this until they're a little soft. This is looking really good, and I may have walked away and it got a little dark. It's gonna be fine. Let's add some more ingredients. A splash of just white vinegar, about a tablespoon, about 4 teaspoons of chicken broth, 1 tablespoon of tomato paste. I really like these tubes. It makes it super convenient, but the cans are very inexpensive, really inexpensive. And the equivalent of 3 cans of pinto beans, which is, this is probably a little too much, but it will be totally fine. And then a little bit of water just to cover. Hey, if you also have cilantro, I would recommend 3 to 4 tablespoons of diced cilantro. I don't have any in the house. And a sprinkle of oregano you should also add, which I can't find in my spice cabinet. But I do have this Italian blend, which has oregano in it. So even though it's not quite right, it's just a sprinkle, like just a little, like this. If you have cilantro, add it. If not, this is fine. We will taste for salt later. But remember, we cooked the beans in salt, and we used the powdered chicken bouillon, which has salt in it as well. So lid on, and this is gonna simmer for 2 hours. I know it's a long time. but you really need all the flavors to come together. To finish off the Dominican rice and beans, I made a batch of rice. You can do rice however you want, in an Instant Pot, in a pot on the stove, a rice cooker, whatever. You just pour the beans on top of the rice, and the way that I've seen it served is with thin slices of tomato and avocado, if you can get your hands on that. Now, my area, avocado are expensive, so I just stuck with the tomato. It's about 50 cents for this giant tomato, and I didn't even use half of it. For breakfast for this week, we are having pancakes and yogurt, and you can do this any way that you want. This is just an add water for pancakes, and the whole box makes an astounding 16 servings. For each day, you can actually do an entire cup of mix and have a really good amount of pancakes every day. Like it says, 1 cup makes 5 to 7 pancakes depending on the size. And I always find you need a little bit more water than it says to on the box. And then when you're done, you can have your yogurt on the side, or you can put it on top as a sweet topping. If you already have peanut butter in your house, that is definitely something that you can add on top. If you already have syrup in your house, you can add that, jam, etc. There are a lot of different ways to do this with things that you may already have in your pantry staples. But if you don't, it's okay, because you can do it just like this. You can cook your pancakes in any fat. I've done coconut oil, butter, regular vegetable oil, that's usually about it that I use. And of course, you can just do your standard syrup. That's a good thing to keep in your pantry. Or you can use about 3/4 of a cup of yogurt on all of your pancakes. And this is a full dinner plate. Like this is a very, very large serving. Here you go. Breakfast for the week. Pancakes and yogurt. And if you want Greek yogurt, you can spend a couple extra dollars and get a more protein-packed Greek yogurt. Hey, here are my main components for my lunches for the week. And this got very leaky, so I left it in the bag. But this is the ground beef that I had, or not beef, Italian style ground turkey. I think I can use some soy sauce to kind of change the flavor of this. It was the cheapest one I could find at $1.66, I believe. I was not really impressed with the price of carrots. It was almost $1 for a pound of carrots. Been able to find closer to 2 pounds of carrots for $1 in the past, and they had no just loose carrots to buy, so that was unfortunate. And this tiny little head of green cabbage. The other ingredients I'm going to be adding to this are things that I actually already have. I would have bought extras to show you how to put it all together and what it would cost if you were starting with nothing, but let me show you why I didn't want to do that. Okay, in my fridge, from all the previous videos I've done, these are all the heads of garlics that I've already bought. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I didn't want to buy any more heads of garlic. So I hope you will excuse me if I just use a couple of cloves from what I already have in my fridge. Ignore all the drinks, they're my mom's. And also, I already have this huge thing of soy sauce and this huge thing of soy sauce, so much. So please excuse the fact that I'm using soy sauce that is already in my fridge. To try and take away from the Italian flavor of the ground turkey, unfortunately, I'm going to be mixing soy sauce, brown sugar, and some of the garlic that I got from my fridge, and some crushed red pepper flakes. So these crushed red pepper flakes are actually homemade. You can make them yourself by drying jalapenos. Here's a different way that you can open up garlic. Just pinch the 2 sides, and then you can peel it like this and grate it instead of chopping it up if you don't want to do that. So that's my stir fry sauce, let's say. And here's my Italian turkey in the pan. Once it was done cooking, I added all of my cabbage and the sauce and let it kind of simmer together. You can add the carrots at this point, but I like to keep those raw just as a personal preference. Lunches for the week, beef and cabbage. I'm gonna call it a stir fry, I guess. I like to add the carrots raw because I like the sweet crunch that it gives, but you can absolutely saute the carrots in with the cabbage and beef if you want. And a really easy way to bulk this up is by serving it over rice. And if you have some sesame oil laying around, a little drizzle of that on top really takes it over the top. Really comforting, really delicious, really strong flavors. For dinners this week, we are going to use these 4 ingredients mostly to put together burrito bowls. Now, you could go without the chorizo and maybe just use a taco seasoning, but I love chorizo. Flavor is very strong, which will go nicely with the more bland like pinto beans and rice. I wanted to buy cheese so bad but my Walmart did not have the little individual string cheeses, which is what I was looking for, and it would have put me way over my budget to buy cheese. We're gonna cook our pinto beans and rice any way that you like to do it. I have an entire video dedicated to how to cook dried beans, so I will reference that video down below. There's a ton of different ways to do it. It doesn't matter which way you do it. Crock pot, on the stove, in the oven, instant pot, it's whatever. I'm gonna cook up these pinto beans and this brown rice, cook up this in a skillet, and we're basically gonna mix it all together, and bada boom, bada bang, you've got dinner for the week. Here's my pan with the chorizo. So I sauteed the chorizo first and then added the cooked pinto beans, all of them. Added a little bit of water and let these simmer together with just some seasoned salt, and then I just let the flavors come together, tasted it for salt, added a touch more, and now we are good. Now that my rice is done cooking, we will put our burrito bowls together. Here's my bean and rice burrito bowl topped with sour cream. Like I said earlier, cheese would have been really, really nice here. And if you happen to have some tortilla chips, salsa, you could add a whole bunch of different things to this. But it does taste good the way it is because of the chorizo and the seasoned salt and the creaminess of the beans. All of it goes together really nicely. Several breakfast options are going to be to take the yogurt. This is actually a pretty big bowl. It's about an entire cup of yogurt, which is enormous. And if you keep oatmeal in your stockpile at all, it's very easy to put together a little bit of granola like this and top it with some of those delicious blueberries. Now, I don't know about you, but a breakfast like that always makes me happy. Another breakfast option is to take that same yogurt in a blender bottle, something like this, throw in those blueberries, a scoop of protein powder, and water. You don't even have to have milk in this. The water mixed with the protein powder is basically gonna create your milk for you. I always have protein powder on hand. I buy it on clearance, on sale, whenever I can. I always have several of those. Let's add 6 to 8 ounces of water. And this is gonna have over 30 grams of protein in it. Now, because I didn't add ice to mine, it's more drinkable than scoopable. Could even get a smaller cup like this and divvy it out between some kids. Guys, this is delicious. Cheers. Lunch one day, I have a toasted bagel with cream cheese because I had cream cheese in my fridge. If you don't have cream cheese, peanut butter, like toasted bagel with peanut butter, is one of my all-time favorites. Also, you could just do butter and jam. I always have butter and jam hanging out at my house. Dinner for the first night and also lunch for tomorrow is going to be hamburgers and baked beans. So this is already done and cooked. I did get one package of buns. There are 8 in here, and 8 of these enormous patties. These are 1/4 pound patties. Really, really filling. So all 6 of us can have one burger and some baked beans tonight. And then 2 people can have burgers in their lunches tomorrow. I'm gonna saute some of this sausage with an onion, add some sauce, cook some pasta, mix it all together. We'll have a side of frozen vegetables. Bada boom, bada bang, we're done. Did get this Parmesan cheese on clearance as well, $2.49. So add this to my sauce, give it some saltiness, thicken it up just a little bit because cheese is life. This chicken rice soup is a dish I grew up eating. It's a childhood favorite of mine, and here is the base of it. Celery, onions, and carrots all chopped up. I also purchased the rice at the store and the clearance bread. This is gonna go with our dish. Some pantry items include some chicken broth of whatever kind. I just have this large one that's in my pantry all the time, some thyme, and some bay leaves, probably salt and pepper. This is basically all you need. So I'm heating up my large pot right here. This was a gift by my stepmom about 8 years ago, and it's like my go-to. It's really large. It's a 9-quart, like cast iron pan. I adore it. So I will saute my vegetables over here with some olive oil, and then the remaining cooked chicken that I have is gonna go in at the end. So right now we're just kind of making a really nice, beautiful stock base for our soup. Oil is in, here come my delicious veggies. Now that all my veggies are soft, it's time to add about a cup to a cup and a half of rice. I usually just eyeball it until it looks right. And once the rice is cooked, it's gonna turn more into a stew than a soup. I'd say at least a cup and a half. I have 8 cups of chicken broth here. And of course, if it looks a little dry, you can add more chicken broth. If it looks, oh, I am pulling out these thyme stems. Don't wanna eat those. And as soon as the rice is fully cooked in about 20 minutes, this is about what your soup should look like. It's pretty thick. Make sure you take out those bay leaves. Taste for salt. And I will get that bread sliced up and dish this out. And if there are any leftovers, my mom always doubled and tripled this recipe growing up. But if there's any leftovers, I would single-handedly like plow through the leftovers by myself. That's how much I adore this soup. Here's the completed chicken rice soup, which as you can see, ends up being extremely thick, more like a stew or kind of a casserole in a pot, I guess. But this is the way my mom always made it. Really, really thick with the rice. The rice soaked up all the broth. I am very, very excited about tonight's dinner. Another dinner, we're putting together a sausage chili. So I have the rest of these sausages. I'll take them out of the casings. And I chopped up some more of the carrots, celery, and onions right here that we will saute in my saucepan that's heating up now. Here's my kidney beans and hot chili beans that I purchased at the store, and here are some pantry items. I have chili powder, obviously salt and pepper. I don't know if I'm gonna add the black beans. I just got them out in case. These are my Dollar Tree name brand find for right now. And I have this beef broth also just in the pantry. Wanna use that up. Once this is hot, we'll start sauteing our vegetables. Oh no, that's stuck. Had these guys a long time. For my chili, I have added my crushed tomatoes here, my can of chili beans that I'm kind of rinsing out with some water, 1/4 cup of chili powder, which I had in my pantry, 1 bouillon cube, beef broth. 1 cube is essentially 2 cups of beef broth. And because I'm adding this water, I think that'll go nicely because I use pork sausage and not ground beef like I normally would. I'll add some hot sauce, some Worcestershire sauce, and a little bit of salt. Let this simmer for about 30 minutes and I'll add the rest of my beans in here and do a little taste test. In comes my 1 can of black beans and kidney beans, and simmer for another like 15 or 20 minutes, and then it's up to you to serve this however you like. My favorite way is to serve it on top of rice. It is the way I grew up eating it, although I realize that that's weird to some people. But we can definitely pull out the chips that we bought, the guacamole that we bought, and top this with those as well. Here is our sausage bean, like 10 can bean chili. It was probably like 5 cans. I used the clearance guacamole that I purchased and the chips that I purchased to go with this bowl of chili. I may have gone a touch heavy on the chili powder. It has got a kick, but the flavors are bold, in your face. That is exactly how I like to eat. Another serving option for you is the following. Rice is a great meal extender. If you have a big family, it's really inexpensive, and I didn't use up all my rice for the week with the chicken rice soup. So this is a way to get probably double the amount of meals with your chili. And to me, it just feels like home. Tonight for dinner, we are starting with an empty crock pot and 6 cups of peeled and diced potatoes that we picked up. We are doing a version of my mom's cheesy crock pot potato soup. I have shared this recipe before. It is on my website if you want to go check it out, and the link for that will be down below. We're just going to tweak it a little bit based on our minimal ingredients. So I have 6 cups of diced potatoes, a 1/2 cup of diced onion, and at this point I would usually use water and chicken broth and salt and pepper and add evaporated milk at the end. Instead, I am going to use some of my chicken stock that I have made. It's cold, so it did congeal, along with milk. I did not buy a can of evaporated milk for this grocery shopping, and I did not buy my favorite, best meltable cheese, American Kraft cheddar slices, or Velveeta also works. We're just gonna go with our shredded sharp cheddar. Here are 3 cups of milk to go with my chicken broth, Little bit of salt and pepper, lid on. I'm gonna cook this on high for 3 to 4 hours. It has been a few hours and my potatoes are cooked. I can add more milk at this point, but what I'm going to do is add 1.5 to 2 cups of the shredded cheese, melt it in, and then kind of get a feel for the thickness, if I would like to add more milk at that point. And then now we can taste for salt and pepper. I will probably add more pepper, but definitely taste your food before you serve it to everybody. Now, like I said earlier, the Kraft singles melt much, much better than regular cheddar, but I only wanted to buy 1 block of cheese for this challenge. So the good shredded cheddar it is, even though it doesn't melt quite as well. This dinner is this recipe right here. I got this a very, very long time ago and I loved it because it uses beans and pasta and sausage. I've been cooking this recipe for over 10 years in my house. It's very budget friendly, especially because we have some dried beans that we rehydrated and cooked in my Instant Pot, so they'll be easy peasy to take care of. And right now we're going to get started on the sauce. As you can see, for the sauce, I need an onion, some garlic, and my sausage that I purchased at Walmart, which is not turkey sausage, but any kind of sausage will work. So we'll brown this up with some onion and this garlic and then add the remainder of the ingredients. Okay, my sausage and onions are cooked and onions translucent at this point. So 2 cans of diced tomatoes. I'm actually using 1 can, 128 ounce can of diced tomatoes. What is the equivalent of 2 cans of cooked beans? So I'll use this can as my measurement. Here come my 2 cans of white cooked beans, 1 cup of chicken broth, and some spices. I have about 1 tablespoon of Italian seasoning, mostly because it was less expensive to purchase this and I can use it for more things rather than buying like fennel and other things. I will also add some salt and pepper, and I gotta run to the fridge and grab my chicken broth as well. Now, while my sauce is cooking, I am boiling up 1 pound of my macaroni noodles in some salted boiling water. Now that all of my ingredients are in, here's my gelatinous chicken broth right here. We're gonna simmer this for 15 minutes. Once it comes up to temperature, taste for salt and pepper. And then as soon as the pasta's done, we'll mix this in with the pasta, and that's the dish. What's interesting is what I have left over. Over here, I do have a good amount of the white beans left over. And remember, I've already used half of that 2-pound bag for my white chicken chili. We can stick this in a baggie and stick it in the freezer. Totally cooked beans like this freeze really, really well and make meal prep later extremely easy. Taste for salt and pepper if you happen to have any cheese hanging around, Parmesan cheese, whatever, you can also serve that alongside it. A salad would be delicious. I'm gonna go ahead and cook up my frozen broccoli and serve that on the side, and we are done. Woo, that was an experience, wasn't it? Which one of these recipes was your favorite? Which one are you going to try out? And thank you so much for hanging out with me today in this probably the longest video I have ever done here on YouTube. I hope you have a great day, and until next time, happy eating.